A leader is a leader because he is a servant. This leader is someone who inspires his followers, her followers.
Through our series of TutuTalks, the Desmond and Leah Tutu Legacy Foundation hopes to reframe unresolved issues within civil society and uncover what moral and ethical leadership entails.
How do we choose to show up in the world? When we talk about nation building, citizenship, and a collective future, what kinds of questions do we ask ourselves before we attempt to hold government leaders and those in positions of power accountable to the many endless promises that are made to us as a constituency, a community, a network, or a nation? My name is Constantinides, and I'm a proud South African, a humanitarian, social justice, and climate activist. With a deeply entrenched passion for impact and change, I've spent my life working on the ground, diving into issues around upholding values that remain connected to the very legacy given to us by the Arch himself, His Eminence Archbishop Desmond Tutu. Human rights, citizenship, and the power of individual responsibility for collective outcome is at the very core of my work, my drive, and all that I strive for as we work daily at building our very communities, the nation, continent, and the global village that we find ourselves in. We're quick to ask of others what it is that they are doing, or to ask of others what we're not prepared to do ourselves. We always look for external answers to sort out the challenges, the flaws, brokenness of our society, and the immeasurable challenges. But not often enough do we pause and reflect on the enormity of the individual contribution that can and must be made. I constantly question the world we live in, our daily contribution, and our ability to not only pass through this one precious life, but our ability to add value, create value, and contribute to the very corner of the world that we live in. There is a value creation economy that we all contribute towards each and every day. We cannot equate its currency, but it is beyond our wildest imagination. There is something to be said for the so-called soft power, because as activists, humanitarians, or community leaders on the ground, our ability to galvanize communities, organize people, and communicate in a way that connects people. This equates to groundswell movements and impact, successfully achieving change and driving much needed attention into spaces that are otherwise left unconsidered. And it is this organization of people and communicating from the bottom up where often politics fails. It isn't about fancy titles or corner offices. It is simply the power of choice and the daily focus and deliberate action to choose how we show up in the world. Have you ever contemplated what it means to be an exceptional human being? What it is that you bring to the space that you occupy? How do you actively engage the difficulties in the world that we live in? And why is it that we're not shaped and molded to be the most exceptional human beings we could be? Through the communities we serve, by the conversations that we have, and the narrative of change that we so often seek. We do not often enough interrogate the narrative we have been given, or the one that we hold onto as our very truth. And it requires deep diving into the essence of who we are as a people before we can understand who we are as a community or as a nation. Growing up in a very humble home, one of the greatest gifts that my parents gave us was the ability to not only face adversity, but to not ask who was going to fix something or who was ultimately responsible, but to ask what could we do and whom could we engage in order to find solutions. The spirit of activism and servant leadership are two values that are embedded in the fabric of my character, who I am. The values that drive my purpose and pursuit of a world that I do believe is possible. Through my work at Grassroots, I'm inspired daily by the pockets of hope that I am privileged to find across the length and breadth of our nation. Many of the issues which I have actively addressed and focused on are not the issues that make mainstream media. They're not always deemed newsworthy. However, to the communities where we work, these very issues, these become the cornerstones of building a society. Addressing issues of quality education, sanitation, access to healthcare, safe clean drinking water, waste management, climate change, food security. These are to name just but a few. It is when we remove the barriers and boundaries that allow us to have real conversations and connect authentically from one human being to another. I'm filled with a burning fight, fueled by the everyday heroes that just make things happen. The unsung heroes that get on with it, they are unmoved by the politics of the day. These are the great men and women that ensure that the cogs of the wheels continue to turn. I count it a blessing to work with such community leaders, passionate and driven by the challenges that they are faced with. This is citizenship. Active citizenship refers to active participation of a citizen under the law of a nation, where time and effort is actually made to understand and educate ourselves in politics, society, the mechanism of how our institutions and systems of governance work and operate, and what it means for us at an individual level, and how we play our part, plug into these systems, and actively engage, understanding that there is actually a bigger picture, a shared vision for us all. Building a nation is a lifetime project, one which requires of each generation to reflect on where we have come from, to take up those lessons, and because we know better, we need to be better. The beloved Arch carries with him values that he has not only embraced, but he has shared with the world through his relentless pursuit for peace, kindness, and love. Some of these values include tolerance, respect, integrity, consistency, and authenticity, to name but a few. These are the ones that stand out for me because these are the values that I carry with me in all that I do. In July 2021, our nation witnessed unprecedented looting. A small group of people caused damage, chaos, and economic turmoil. But it was in the days that followed where we didn't only see citizenship in action, but we could feel it. We could feel what it meant to be a South African, as citizens picked up brooms and took to the streets to clean up. We saw active citizenry across the country as goods and basic essentials were being collected and distributed, and people stood together to address the pain, frustration, and the anxiety that we all felt. But allow me to throw a curveball of thought, because sometimes we don't say the obvious for fear of making others uncomfortable and perhaps even uneasy, but the realities stare us in the face, and too often we ignore the low-hanging fruit, and that could really truly make such a huge difference in the very places that we live, learn, work, and play. Truth be told, we are a traumatized nation, scared by fear and crime that has infiltrated every community and neighborhood. And so locking ourselves away, connecting with only what we are familiar with and comfortable with, well, this has become our default. Sadly, sometimes we only realize what we have when we step back and look in from the outside. When we see what the world sees, only then can we fully appreciate the enormity of the potential of who we are. But once again, it takes a concerted and deliberate effort every single day. We have to show up, and we have to be the best version of the South African that we can be. We need to hold a set of collective values that make up what it means not only to be a South African, but what kind of South Africa we want to live and build together. Do we strive to be more, know more, understand, appreciate, and respect more? Active citizenry requires each and every one of us to play our part, to do the hard graft, to understand that we don't live in a perfect world. And as a young democracy, there is much work to be done. But it requires commitment, it requires sacrifice, and it asks of us to be vulnerable and create safe spaces in which we can learn, unlearn, and relearn. We need to explore and unpack what our civic responsibilities are, and these need to be taught at school, engraved in who we are, and the kinds of questions that we ask, and in the actions that we take, not for any other benefit, but because it talks to the kind of South African each of us wishes to be. Citizenship is not just about the power of a vote. It's not only about a hard-fought-for democracy that gives us a constitution that is lauded the world over, but in fact, our duty begins with a vote, and understanding that we have an equal responsibility to safeguard and protect our hard-fought-for democracy each and every day. It is said that democracy, freedom, and the rule of law are not given, but they are fought for and won. And then they need to be defended and protected every single day thereafter. The dismal voter turnout in the 2021 municipal elections are certainly a warning sign. It signals a broken relationship between our local governance structures and the very communities that they are meant to serve. We see a disconnect with our youth and citizens who feel betrayed by the elected officials, disappointed and failed. Why would they go to the polls and vote when nothing has changed and nothing feels like it ever will? But nothing changes if nothing changes. Citizens should vote. They should go and express their democratic right, but not because they are obliged to do so, but because they are inspired to do so, because they feel a responsibility to be a part of the constitutional democratic country that we are all party to. I have to ask, where is the voice of our youth? We require and must demand greater presence from our young people in our country. Their voices cannot be sporadic and inconsistent. We need for young people to claim their space, voice their concerns, and exercise their rights, because ultimately, they are the future custodians of this very nation, but it requires for them to organize themselves now so that they can monitor and secure these rights as our future leaders today. How many of us know who the ward councillor for the very community in which we live? Do we know what ward number our home falls into? Do you know who your neighbours are, where their children go to school, where they work, and what they do? How many people are armchair critics and do an exceptional job of calling out municipalities, community leaders, when the lights are out or the water pipes have burst? How many of us follow the actual channels that are available to us as citizens that allow us to log complaints, issues, and challenges? How many of us make a call to the ward councillor responsible? Do we even have their number saved on our phone? On a day-to-day basis, do you get involved in community cleanups, activities? Do you buy produce at a market store? Do you know the man at the robot that you drive past every day? Do you know his or her name? Have you ever paid a bribe so that you could easily get out of paying a fine or the inconvenience of queuing at a government department building? We need to not only look at our rights, but also our responsibilities to play our part. There are pockets of excellence that inspire hope. These are the flickers of light in the darkness. We need to amplify these examples and consciously share these stories, because we do know how to rise and stand as a rainbow nation. But somehow we only do it in crisis mode or when we have no other choice. But imagine, who would we be if we remembered what we're capable of? During the looting, we saw citizens guarding each other's communities and their own spaces. How can we forget the spirit and the vibe of the World Cup in 2010? How sport has galvanized and rallied our nation. South Africans have opened places of worship to serve and get vaccinations to many of their communities at large, leaving nobody behind. Citizens standing up and not asking who is going to do it, but stepping forward and saying, we will find a way. Community food gardens that take fresh produce into homes and clinics. Gogos that turn their shacks into libraries in the middle of the worst townships with the least resources. But they find a way to create a space for children to have access despite their own circumstances. The list is endless, but it requires a shift in mindset, because ultimately we must ask, how are we showing up to the world, and what is it that we contribute? How are we part of a value creation nation that seeks to fight for the very democracy, freedom, and the rule of law that we wish to see equally distributed, bridging the inequality divide that holds us all back? We all have much work to do, and all we need is the ability to believe in the impossible. All we require is to ask of ourselves each and every day what it is that we can do to add value to our corner of the earth. Are we running away from the darkness, or are we running towards the light? We need to be intentional, and we need to readjust our mindset in order to understand that we all have so much to give from where we are. To our youth, I implore you to stand up, claim your space. We don't only need you, but demand that your voice, your presence, and your consistent and deliberate involvement is to build a future for us all. Stand up, South Africa. Let us lead and build forward, being brave to address what is uncomfortable as we enter an unknown, but a journey that inspires individual action for the shared vision of our collective future.